Hello to everybody who went to a pretty badass funeral this week. It's Beautiful Anonymous, 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi, everybody. Chris Gethard here. I know not everybody loves a long intro. If you're looking to skip to the phone call, I didn't time it perfectly this time, but I think it's probably if you skip like 7 or 8 minutes, it'll be right towards the beginning of the phone call. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Gethard, and I want to welcome you to Beautiful Anonymous, the show where we explore the human condition one anonymous phone call at a time. As always, such a joy to be here, such a joy to be talking to you. This is coming out, and I've got some rare shows. I think people have noticed I've not been going out on the road lately. I've actually got a couple shows coming up that are very near and dear to my heart. On April 13th, I'll be at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, which I came up at the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York. I'll be at the one in Los Angeles, April 13th, doing an edition of my show, that show hosted by Chris Gethard. This is a variety show that's been selling out like crazy in New York. It's been super flattering, super cool. I think it's developing a great reputation for taking some chances and putting some younger artists who are creative to the forefront. And on April 13th, I'll be in LA at the UCB doing a show I'm calling The Night of 1,000 Co-Hosts, which is a great excuse to just get tons of my friends who I don't get to see that often all on stage in one place. So, I mean, it'll be Jason Mantzoukas and Robbie Hoffman and Business Casual and Martin Urbano and Jeff Rosenstock, Chris Farron, Drew Johnston, Phil Jackson, Will Hines, Susie Barrett, Emily Pendergast, Lennon Parham, Bobby Moynihan, Eugene Cordero, I'm forgetting some. So many friends from my past who sometimes it takes a show to get everybody together, but I'm designing a show just to hang out with all of these insanely talented friends of mine. And if you're in the Los Angeles area, there's only about 10 tickets left. And if you're not in the Los Angeles area, you can watch that one on live stream. Now, April 19th, you cannot live stream my show from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'll be in Honolulu. I am taking Cal out there. I have an uncle who is very close to my heart. He lives out there. We realized that we could pay for a hotel with airline points, so we said, let's bring Cal to Honolulu for his spring break and / his birthday. I am doing this show in part to pay for the plane tickets for this trip. I'm all access with you guys, and it's totally true. I was able to pay for the hotel with airline points, and now I'm trying to pay off the flights, but I'm doing a show, and that's a cool one to mark off the bucket list, performing in Honolulu as a New Jersey comedian. So I'll be at Anna O'Brien's in Honolulu on April 19th. If you know anyone in Honolulu, please tell them to come. I have no idea if we have any listeners on the island of Oahu, but come on out. It would be a joy to meet you. That should be a fun show. And you can get tickets for all of those shows at punchup.live/Chris Gethard. Also, info coming soon on a show in May that's going to be a fundraiser for Laughing Together, and it's going to be a show that's 24 hours long, and it's going to be nutters, and it should be a good time. You know what else is a good time, surprisingly enough, is the phone call you're about to hear. Our caller is someone who tells us about the job they are excited about. They're in training for it right now. They're going to be a death doula, someone who helps people navigate the end of life. It's a really fascinating call. In many ways, it's more positive and cheerful than you'll expect it to be, based on that topic. But we're going to hear how one decides to pursue this. We're going to hear what it entails. We're going to hear perspectives and philosophies about death, which is something that we all will also face. Also, want to just put out there, I hijacked this conversation a little bit more than I usually do. Apologies to the caller for that. It was very strange timing for a death doula to call. An uncle of mine passed away the same week that the caller called. Thank you to everybody who might offer up condolences. My my uncle and I were not particularly close, but I did admire him greatly. I will also say, since this call took place, I attended his wake and his funeral, and I just got to say, he was a firefighter, and chalk up firefighter funeral to a life experience that I had never had before, and that despite the loss of my uncle, who I admired so much, man, to see a firefighter's funeral was really remarkable in so many ways. A glimpse into a culture that is built on really strong bonds and really strong feelings of a life of service. He didn't die as part of his firefighting, but when I tell you that multiple towns sent their entire fire squads to his wake, that there was an honor guard flanking his casket at all times. There was multiple ceremonies. When we did the funeral procession the next day, they drove by the firehouse and the flag was flying at half-mast. The entire fire department was lining the streets, saluting the hearse, and all of the fire trucks were pulled out of their garages with their lights on. I was very, very blown away, very overwhelmed to know my Uncle Bill my entire life. And like I said, great respect for him, warm feelings when I saw him, but this was not somebody whose house I was at all the time. We'd see each other a couple times a year. But to get this glimpse into his life and how much it was defined by this particular type of service and this sense of brotherhood and sisterhood he had with all these people who respected him on this deep level, it was really impressive. And I will say this to my cousins, to my aunt that have survived him, should you hear this, my condolences, just as strongly as I expressed them in the moment as we saw each other. To my Uncle Bill, since this episode is focused on death, I've never seen someone go out looking like more of a badass. I've seen it in TV and movies. I've never personally attended the wake funeral combo and seen somebody go out in more badass fashion. So my Uncle Bill Gethard, rest in peace. And you went out in true badass form, and it was impressive. Caller, thank you so much for helping people navigate one of the toughest parts of life, which is death. Thank you for being so open about it, and thanks for sharing the spotlight with me in this one. I hope everybody gets something out of this, and I think one of the main takeaways will be that this caller has excitement and humor and charm in dealing with something as intimidating and often scary as death. And if that isn't hopeful or uplifting, I don't know what is. Enjoy the phone call, everybody.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello.
Is this Chris?
This is Chris. It's really nice to talk to you.
Oh my gosh. It's really nice to talk to you. I'm sorry for the cliche opener. I couldn't stop myself.
No, I'm glad people still stick to it. It's probably the longest standing tradition with this show now, is to start an episode with the words, "Is this Chris?"
I love it. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
You sound great.
Awesome. Okay, good.
I would say better than most of our dog shit callers. I don't know why I thought that would be funny. That would be a funny thing to say.
I like it. I just charged my headphones and they're in my ears and going into your ears. This is awesome.
I love it. I love it. I feel lucky I get to talk to you today.
Me too. I was just saying to Andrea, this is like my first day where I don't have to leave my house until later today. And so when I saw that this was the day that as a touch tone caller, hey, subscribe to be a touch tone caller. Do it. Pay for it. It's worth it.
Hey, from your mouth to God's ears, we try to make it bang for the buck. We try to make it bang for the buck out here, everybody.
Listeners, I'm talking to the listeners, not to Chris. Subscribe. Yeah. Chris is amazing. It's so fun to hear. I love the bonus content. I get so much joy from the bonus content. So yeah, now I'll talk to you again, Chris. Well, anyway, this is kind of a peaceful day for me.
I'm so happy to talk to you.
Well, I was saying to Andrea, I recently started training to become a death doula. Do you know what a death doula is?
I feel like we've talked to people in hospice care. I feel like we had a call with a death doula at one point, and I was very, very impressed by it.
Yeah, it's really neat. I'm really grateful to be doing it because I'm also a wedding officiant, and so I'm kind of in this like life and death like milestone maven. Like I'm trying to be a person who people can turn to in their big moments in life. I want to be there for people when they're creating ceremony and ritual and celebrating each other and their people. And, you know, these big moments in life shouldn't be scary. They should be exciting. And I want to be a part of that for people.
It's funny that you called this week. I just had, my uncle just passed away the other day. And I mean, to the degree that...
Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You know, he was older, and I really admired him. We weren't that close, but I did admire him a lot. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, like, we're in the window between he passed away over the weekend, and the wake isn't even until Friday. So it's very serendipitous that you called right now.
What's a favorite memory of him you have?
Well, he was he's my dad's older brother. He's, I think, a decade plus older than my dad. So growing up, like I said, he always seemed a little distant to me. But when I got older, it's actually, in a way that's kind of strange, I started volunteering for the first aid squad in my town almost 4 years ago now. I've been doing it for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. And he was a volunteer firefighter his whole life. And both of my cousins, his kids were firefighters, one of them professionally. So all of a sudden it gave us this thing to really talk about and connect on in my adulthood. That's one of those things that you kind of don't consider is, you know, you have these relationships that get established when you're a kid and you don't, you know, and it was never aggressive. It was never anything anybody was upset about. It was just, we didn't see them all that much. And he and I don't think ever connected on a personal level, but you don't realize, well, maybe he just wasn't built to connect with a kid. But then when I became an adult and started participating in this thing that he was invested in, he got really excited about it. And the last handful of years, the times I would see him, we'd get to talk about different calls, and he had excitement about it. And it was nice to realize, oh, you can connect with someone in your family as an adult, even if that didn't totally happen when you were a kid.
I think not everyone gets along with kids, and that's okay. You know, I think that it's really sweet when you, as a person, when you're a child, you think that adults are these big, scary people. But then when you become an adult, it's like, oh, wait, we are co-adults. You know, now we actually have things to talk about.
Yeah. We can curse in front of each other and stuff.
Hell yeah. I love that. It's funny. My wife is not much of a baby person or kid person. I think it's less that she is really good with kids. I think it's just not her favorite people to hang out with. But definitely she's more uncomfortable around babies. And so it's been really sweet as our nieces and nephew have been getting older to see her start to connect with them, because you can actually talk to them as they get older.
I think it's a really fair point. Especially now that I have a kid too. I'm like, because my cousins were, like, it was my brother, then my cousin, and then me, and then my other cousin. Like we only lived one town away, so you would think we would have grown up very close. But I'm also now a parent, and I'm like, when you have your own kids, sometimes that's more than enough. Like if you're someone who's not built for kids and you
Totally.
have your own, I'm like, oh, maybe we didn't have that strong bond of hanging out with the cousins of a similar age all the time, because maybe he was just the type of guy that was like, I got my own kids, and it's too much. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But I will miss him. Now, Andrea is pointing out to me, I think I was wrong. Andrea's saying we've had hospice workers. We've had people who, work in hospice as, nurses and whatnot.
Palliative care people.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
People who are there for the process of death. We've had birth doulas, but Andrea's telling me I'm wrong, that we've never had a death doula. So I'm wondering.
Amazing.
What exactly? How do you delineate?
Would you like me to define?
Yeah. What's the
Yeah.
lane you stay in
Of course.
compared to a birth doula and compared to other people who help with the hospice process?
Totally. So I just want to be totally clear. I am a death doula in training. I have not been certified yet. I'm a little over halfway through my training course right now. But to the best of my knowledge, the best that I can explain it, death doula, similar to a birth doula, is not a medical profession. They aren't the ones, dealing with the actual giving birth process. They are caring for the person who is giving birth, making sure that they have all their needs met, making sure they're comfortable, making sure someone's advocating for them. And similarly, a death doula is there for the dying person. They're not a doctor. They're not a nurse. They're not giving medicine. They're not, checking temperatures and things like that. They are there to support the dying person in their dying process, making sure that they are comfortable, making sure that their needs are met. Because I think people don't realize or don't know or don't care to know that you don't have to die in a hospital. You could die at home. You can die surrounded by your family. You can die sitting on your front porch if you want to. And a death doula is there to make sure that you get to have the dying experience that you deserve.
I know we experienced this from the birth doula perspective in the exact way you just said, especially in the sense of, I remember when we got to our hospital, things started moving very fast. And Hallie was very concerned that it seemed like the birth plan she came up with was being disregarded. And I think we were very much of the mindset of like, hey, if anything needs to change, let us know. This is the ideal. But it seemed like, it was very visible, like, here's the birth plan. And it was just immediately put aside and no one even looked at it. And Hallie was in obviously a state of a mindset and an emotional place of going, no. Like, I've thought hard about this. And if it's not a conversation, and we got on the phone with our doula and she was like, I'm on my way. And she was a woman named Dee Dee.
Hell yeah.
She got there, and I'll tell you, she effectively just kind of was very willing to play bad cop with the nursing staff and tell them, like, no, you can't just move on that quick. If you're moving on, you have to give us the reasons. And they were the nurses were, I imagine it's not always adversarial, but in our case, the nurses were very clearly like, okay. And at one point, I think I heard them complaining that we had the birth doula there, which made me feel like, I like these nurses a lot, but if they're complaining that the birth doula is there, I'm glad the birth doula is here,
Absolutely. That's wild. Yeah.
Is it similar
exactly, same idea.
as a death doula?
Yes. I think there are circumstances where, and I imagine this is going to be common in my line of work and in other death doulas lines of work, but sometimes the dying person's loved ones and the dying person don't have the same wishes. The wishes do not align. Maybe the dying person says DNR, do not resuscitate, and the loved one says, no, I want whoever it is, my loved one, to stay alive as long as possible, whatever that means. And so the doula is there to say, look, this is what it says in the dying person's wishes. We need to respect their wishes. But that's really hard and scary because your loved one is dying. And so the doula is there to sort of step up and say, this is what your loved one wants, and please respect that.
I'll tell you, you brought up something that I feel like y'all have a strong opinion on.
Give it to me.
Well, I would also imagine maybe part of your role is to have a copy of that DNR on hand. Is that
Of
true?
course. Hmm.
Now,
Of course.
me driving for the ambulance squad, I was on a bit of a nightmare situation where and I can't say too much because of HIPAA regulations, but I will tell you, I was in the unenviable position where I personally performed CPR on someone, where we were
Oh
told
my
by
gosh.
his nurse and family, no, 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 he has a DNR. And my crew chief had to say,
Yeah.
as I'm sure you see where I'm going with this, my crew chief from the first aid squad turned around and said, legally, we have to perform CPR unless you can show us the DNR paperwork. And no one could find it.
Yep.
So I'm doing the
Oh.
CPR on this man,
Oh.
knowing, that he was very old, knowing this breaks ribs. This leads to physical therapy.
Hmm.
He has said he doesn't want this, but I
Yep.
legally have to do it. And if this man comes back to life, I will not feel like a hero. He will be mad at me.
Yeah.
And luckily they found the DNR paperwork, and that didn't happen, because you can find articles saying, there's people right now who they'll go to their elderly parents' house and their parents have the DNR on like neon pink paper up on the fridge. People go, "Hey, mom, dad, isn't this a little?"
Oh,
And they're going, "No, no, no, no. We need that to
that's
be
how it's
easily located."
that's how it's printed, Chris. It's always like a neon color. It's not that they choose to print it that color. Like legally, it has to be a crazy color so that it's easily findable in a hospital file.
Yeah, it's a real thing. If you have DNR paperwork, don't let it just sink to the bottom of your junk drawer, everybody.
Nope. Stick it on
if
your
you
fridge. Put it somewhere where it's easily accessible.
or give a copy to your death doula so that someone knows exactly where it is at all times, correct?
Or, yep, see all the above. Absolutely. It's really important that people know exactly what you want, and not just in the process of dying, but also after your death. Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be composted? Do you want to be buried? Do you want open casket? Do you want a religious figure presiding over your funeral? Do you want, there's all sorts of things that people have a say over. You can even, you can prepay for your funeral?
I know you can prepay for a burial plot. I didn't know you
Not
could
just the
prepay
burial
for the
plot, but
whole
for the funeral services.
Oh,
Of
wow.
course. It's actually, when you think about it, it's really a beautiful service to give to your loved ones, because then there's no doubt. It's like, okay, this is what Aunt Susie wanted because she prepaid for all of it. There's no questioning, would she have liked this? Would she have wanted that? Nope. It's all paid for, it's ready to go.
I love that. I know my parents just gave me all the instructions on what they want done. We went and signed a bunch of paperwork to make me officially the person who gets to call those shots. And they added me to a bank account that exists purely because it has enough money to cover everything they want as far as death expenses. And that's the only reason I am ever to enter that bank account. So not quite everything paid for, but here's everything we want. Here's everyone you need to contact. Yeah. And it was scary to have your parents sit you down and say, hey, we're in our 70s. We're not going to live forever. And we want you to be the person who's the point person on our death. It's obviously there's emotions there, but I can say to anybody who's hesitating about either giving that info to their kids, receiving it from their parents, when I tell you that because I'm an emotional guy, especially when it comes to my mom, the thought of anything happening to my mom has always driven me to, panic. But I'll tell you, it's the type of thing that you think will trigger some anxiety or panic, but it was actually such a kind gesture on their part. And I could feel that the emotion was actually, oh, you're just telling me what to do in a situation where I know when it happens, I'm going to have no idea what to do. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. It's an incredibly loving thing to do. And it's a beautiful thing. I feel like you're connecting with those people, with your parents on a level like we were talking before. Like if you were a child, that would be an even more difficult conversation to have. But since you're their adult child, they can, it's an eye-to-eye situation. They trust you literally with their lives. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's intimidating, but it's in a lot of ways. I sit here, I go, yeah, I get why you're asking me to be the one to do all this stuff. Like, I can imagine that's
Yep.
going to be some really bad days, but I really am flattered by your trust in me to be the one to start making some phone calls and putting things into motion and
Yeah.
all that. Like, it's a
Hmm.
service. Now, I have to ask, you had mentioned
Yes.
there might be times where, one of the things you're being trained on, you specifically said someone has do not resuscitate paperwork. Their family is
Hmm.
present, gets emotional, gets scared, and goes, no, you have to try. And it's your job to look those medical professionals or first responders or whomever and go, keep your hands off them. I got the paperwork. I have to imagine similarly, you've mentioned funeral arrangements. There might be situations where
Hmm.
someone's family turns around and goes, okay, we're going to have the wake on this day and we're going to put the obituary in the New York Times and we're going to have the big celebration of life this day. And you turn around and go, well, actually, your mom has instructed me that she wants cremation and no ceremony and move on. And I would have to imagine
Yeah.
part of this training is to go, looking somebody's son or daughter in the eye and they say, well, I want to do it this way. And you're the person sitting here
Yeah.
going, your mom told me you were going to say that. She specifically mentioned to me that you would be the one who went this way. It's not what your mom wanted. It ain't happening. How does your training dictate that those things go?
Oh God. So I have not gotten that far yet. Like I said, I'm mid training. So I've thought about those moments a lot and I've wondered in my own mind what I would do and what I would say. But it's really nerve wracking to think about. Um, I have a hard time standing up for myself sometimes. Um, so I imagine, this is going to be a real test of my character and courage whenever that time comes. Cause yeah, haven't gotten to that module yet.
Yeah, that's probably for the
But
best. But
can I
that is
give,
kind of the gig, right?
it is, can I give you a book recommendation? And actually obviously not just you, but for anyone listening, there's a book that we read. It wasn't required reading for the course, but it was recommended. And I got it from the library. Have you ever gotten a book from the library and then were like, oh, I need to buy this book. I need this book in my life forever.
Oh, yeah, of course. For me, to be fair, that's mostly comic books and graphic novels. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
Totally fair. So this book is called A Beginner's Guide to the End, Practical Advice for Living Life and Facing Death by B.J. Miller and Shoshana Berger. And this book, it's so beautifully written. It's very conversational. It's not like clinical or anything. It lays everything out really nicely. And it's just really handy for understanding all of these, all the details, all the nitty gritty that happens at the end of life, both at the end of your own life, but also at the end of your loved one's life. And I imagine having this knowledge. Now that I'm talking to you, I'm like, oh, I got to read this book again. I think I need to read this book every year at least, just so I have that knowledge like at my fingertips, ready to go for those really hard conversations. I think those conversations might be harder than the conversations of like figuring out what a person actually wants to do, especially if the person's already dead, because they can't stand up for themselves anymore. They're dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
not to be too dark, but then again, it's also like I really want to. One of the reasons I wanted to become a death doula was because I don't want people to think death is all doom and gloom and darkness. Um, there's I think there are people who find joy in the process of figuring out what they want for themselves, and there's joy in reminiscing on your life, and there's joy in surrounding yourself with people who love you. And that's and obviously not everyone will have that opportunity. There are people who are just going to up and die, and they're not going to, have the opportunity to say, I want to be surrounded by rose petals and lavender essential oils and things like that. But just, preparing as best as you can and encouraging people to prepare as best as they can is really interesting to me.
Yeah. What are the other reasons? You said that's one of the reasons you signed up. What are the other reasons? Because I will also say it doesn't strike me as a career path that, and I could be wrong, and there's exceptions to every rule. In general, this doesn't strike me as a career path that a lot of people are coming up with when they're like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a teacher.
Right.
I want to be a death doula. It seems like something you decide you want to do based on life experience. I would imagine more often than not. So what led to this? You know, I want to pause. Sometimes people give me credit for being a good interviewer or conversationalist, and then sometimes I realize that I ask questions like, so what led to this? Which is not the height of thoughtfulness nor journalism. Anyway, we'll find out what led to this, and we'll find out so many other things when we get back. A spring refresh feels really good. I bet there's people out there who have just done their house's spring cleaning. Maybe some of you are doing spring cleanup out in your yard. When that deep cleaning is done, maybe you just rotated all the bulky coats and jackets into the long-term closet. You got out the spring jackets for the warm weather that's coming. It makes a difference, right? Guess what should be one of your primary refreshes is your bedding. Boll & Branch's signature sheets are the perfect place to start. Made with the finest 100% organic cotton, these sheets feel buttery to the touch. They're breathable to sleep in, and they get softer with every wash. They're the perfect foundation for your best sleep this season, and you can easily add Boll & Branch's bed, blankets, duvets, and quilts, all made with airy and breathable designs. I got to tell you, if you've listened to me talk about Boll & Branch for a while, you know that I've been obsessed with my waffle blanket. I have often said, I don't know how the blanket is as light on my body while providing the perfect level of warmth. It's a ridiculous high quality blanket. Also happy to tell you, I just recently started sleeping personally on the sheets, and I've been jealous. There's been times where I'm not going to lie, I've been talking about these sheets in the ads going, I'm going to buy some of those sheets. And I recently got them. And they are as promised, man. These sheets are no joke. I have been faithfully telling you about my waffle blanket for weeks now because that's what I've had. I've never lied to you. Now I have the sheets as well, and the sheets are the best sheets I've ever had. The waffle blanket's the best blanket I've ever had. The combination of the waffle blanket and the sheets, get out of here is all I can say. And get into bed, because bed is the most comfortable place in my house right now. And what a nice thing to be able to say. Boll & Branch products are made different so you can sleep better at night. They're woven with the finest 100% organic cotton on earth, crafted by artisans who earn the pay and respect they deserve. The signature hemmed sheet sets. There's designs and colors for every bedroom style and mattress size. These are all-season sheets that have a breathable, unmatched softness to start and get even softer every time you wash them. They are the perfect foundation for Boll & Branch's airy bed blankets, cloud-like duvets, and so much more. Don't forget that Boll & Branch has a 30-night worry-free guarantee. You can try Boll & Branch sheets for an entire month. Seriously, wash them, style them, feel the difference for yourself, risk-free. If they don't change the way you sleep, you can send them back for a full refund. Upgrade your sleep during Boll & Branch's annual spring event. For a limited time, get 20% off at bollandbranch.com/beautiful. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLANDBRANCH.com/beautiful. You'll get 20% off site-wide for a limited time. Exclusions apply. See site for details. Have you ever had a conversation where you run into somebody and they go, hey, how you doing? And you just reply knee-jerk style. You're like, yeah, I'm good. And when you say it, you hear yourself in your head going, no, you're stressed out. No, your to-do list is crushing your soul. No, you can't figure out how to catch momentum today. And instead you just go, I'm good. You just go, I'm good. Right? Wouldn't it be nice to A, be able to process all of that stuff, and B, mean it? When you say I'm good, mean it, right? Don't you want to get to a place where you can just say I'm good and feel the release of, man, that was actually genuine? It's one of the reasons I'm using Headspace. Headspace is an app that helps me and 100 million other people with their mental health and well-being with guided meditations, mindfulness practices, breathing and calming exercises, and so much more. It reduces stress, boosts my mood, helps me sleep better. Headspace combines scientifically proven benefits of meditation and mindfulness with modern practices, and you learn from experienced meditation teachers. The app has customized, personalized approaches to help you navigate through all of life's moments, big and small. Whether you're a total newbie or you've been meditating for years, there's always content for what you're going through. Whenever I use it, I feel like, man, they have something for people at my exact level. Tells you that they're covering all their bases, looking out for everybody. When I'm short on time, Headspace has these quick on-the-go programs. Those help you get in the right headspace in just a few minutes. Plus, with over 1,000 hours of mindfulness exercises, Headspace has the most complete meditation library I've ever seen. So you can always find something that works for you. I just have to say, I absolutely love, as someone who has talked about mental health over the years, that we're all realizing the conversation about mental health is no longer, hey, sit on a couch and somebody's going to ask you personal questions and you're going to feel this panic of whether you're going to open them or not. No, there are so many practices that can add to your mental health. Meditation is absolutely one of them. There's clinical research about it. It's absolutely something you can do to take the reins for yourself, to start boxing out better mental health. And I'll tell you, I use Headspace, and the fact that there are so many different angles of approach that they provide for, including ones if you're a super busy person that's running around between career and kids, that you can still find a few minutes in your day to take care of yourself. It's really beautifully designed. It's got really beautiful intentions, and I hope it helps you. Feel good and mean it when you say it. For a limited time, get Headspace for free for 60 days. Go to headspace.com/beautiful. That's HEADSPACE.com/beautiful. You'll unlock all of Headspace free for 60 days. Headspace.com/beautiful. Thanks to our advertisers. Now let's get back to the phone call. So what led to this?
Yeah. Well, I hope you're experiencing this right now, Chris, but people find it very easy to talk to me. I've always been someone who, like strangers, I've had strangers on the subway, and you've definitely talked about this recently on the podcast, where like people will just start talking to you and telling you their life story and asking you for advice and stuff. I have the same experience. My joke is that I have in invisible ink written on my forehead, "Tell me your life story." Because people just love talking to me, and I love listening to people. And I think I love storytelling. I love listening to stories. I want to be there with people. I love being with people. And I also, especially in the last couple of years, I'm one of those millennials who's had so many jobs. I've never had a career to speak of. And over the last couple of years, I'm really sick of having a boss. I really just want to work for myself. I really want to figure out what I want to do. I want to make my own schedule. And I want to decide who I work with. And so, being a wedding officiant, being a death doula, it gives me the opportunity to say, this is what I want to do, and this is when I want to do it, and how I want to do it. And I don't have to ask permission from anybody.
That is a very, very common tale amongst millennials, I have found. In many ways.
Yeah.
People in the gig economy, people who, I think the generation that it's becoming clearer and clearer notoriously was told, cool, walk the path where you go to college and maybe you go to grad school and then you get out and you work and you get your 401k and you get your health insurance job and then eventually you buy a house. And your generation is the one that legendarily is turning around and going, hey, this system is now rigged where we're doing all the things you told us and it's not happening. And is anyone going to tell us how we can afford to have kids? Is anyone going to tell us if we get to own homes someday? Because it ain't happening. But I also find so many people react to that, it seems to me, by doing things like you that on some level go, well, if you're cutting off the options for us to have this American dream that has this financial windfall somewhere, or owning of property,
Mm-hmm.
or stability, what we will do at the very least is define life by our own terms. And it very often seems that that also means going into service in some way. I've noticed this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because a lot of the work, most of the work that I did before I made the decision to work for myself was nonprofit work. So I know I kind of had this sense that, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And, you should do a job that that you care about and does good for the world and blah, blah, blah. And I've been laid off 3 times from nonprofit jobs. And so it's like, I want to do these things, but it feels like no one wants me to do them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. But go ahead.
It is funny. Well, Andrea just noted that your answer on why you went into death dueling has so much about, self-determination, doing something you care about in the face of a pretty topsy-turvy job market. Andrea points out those are almost the same reasons Andrea became a podcast producer, and you didn't really mention anything about death.
Aww.
You didn't mention the death part at all. Mostly of like, oh, it's a job where you get to set your own hours was most of your answer.
Yeah. But I mean, this is going to sound so weird, Chris, but I feel like the death thing is like a bonus.
A bonus, not even something to navigate around. The death thing is a bonus. That is an amazing sentence.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a very interesting situation where I was raised by my mother in particular has always been the word that people, I guess the phrase people use is death positive. I don't think she would have chosen that phrase for herself, but there's been more of a like body positivity movement. There's this death positive movement where, it's encouraged to talk about death more and encouraged to talk about your end of life plans and stuff like that. But my mom and her parents have always made talking about death really easy. And it's always, this is going to sound obvious because it's the truth. Death is a matter of fact thing. Literally, death is the only thing we all have in common. Death is the only thing that is going to happen. They say like, what is the quote about death and taxes?
But the truth, the only sure things in life are death and taxes.
Yeah, but even taxes aren't sure. There are plenty of people who don't do their taxes.
Yeah, billionaires. Billionaires don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
The mega wealthy only have to deal with death. Die. And they're trying to circumvent that too. Yeah, why do these rich assholes want to live forever? Are these rich assholes
I don't know.
Does money give you so much happiness that you don't have that constant feeling of, man, the human lifespan is really long? And this is not suicidal. This is not suicidal. I've been there in life. This is not the same. But the amount of times I've sat there and I'm like, man, I'm 44 years old. This shit's getting lame. Oh, wait, I might only be halfway done? Are you kidding? These billionaires want to live forever. You want to just live forever on your big private compounds and buy your own island off the coast of New Zealand and live to be 250 years old like a goddamn Galapagos turtle? No. What is wrong? What about money what is the level of extreme wealth that makes people's brains break and turns them into these villains? We're going to live forever, and we're the ones who don't pay taxes.
I couldn't possibly tell you. It sounds awful to me. And it's funny too. So right now I'm sitting in my house, and I actually, you were talking about like millennials who don't know if they're ever going to be able to afford to raise kids or buy a house. I bought a house.
You did?
And I bought a house, and it's because of generational wealth. My grandparents, the same grandparents who so easily talk about death, have been sort of slowly leaving money for their kids and grandkids pretty much since they started having kids and grandkids. And so I've had this money sort of socked away. And my wife and I, a couple of months ago, we were really unhappy in the rental that we were living in. And I was like, we're not going to find a similar priced rental because the, rental prices are everything. All prices of fucking everything. Sorry, Sally, are going up. And I was like, let's buy a house. We love where we live. We want to stay here. I have family who live nearby, and let's buy a house. Let's see what we can find that's in a good price range. And unlike these billionaires who want to use their money to live forever, I want to use my money to take care of myself and my loved ones and my community. That's the other thing. I really want to invest in my community now that I'm here and I own this property. I want to take care of my community. I want to use my money for good. I hate the idea of just having money sit in a place and not doing anything. Money should be doing something good.
I'm with you.
If we got to have it, it should do good.
I'm with you.
I figured you would be.
Can I tell you a story about my death plan that I think will make you laugh and make you love two of my friends?
Yay, please. I actually was saying to Andrea, I want to talk about your death plans too.
Yeah. So I don't need anything fancy. I don't want any sort of ceremony. I want to be cremated. I am someone who, despite the fact that my career became public performance, am very shy. I don't love attention in real life, which is counterintuitive to every choice I've made in regards to my career. That being said, I want it to be quiet. I want to be cremated. I want no fuss. No one needs to write about me. People have been nice to me in life. I've tried to do my part. And when I'm done, let me just be dust. Now, even before I lived there, so my grandparents lived on a street in West Orange, New Jersey called James Court. It's a little dead-end street. And at the bottom of it is a brook. And there's about a 10-foot tall set of walls. And the brook leads through it. And some of my very earliest and very happiest memories are when I was younger than Cal is now. I'd go and visit my grandparents, and I would throw sticks into the brook and watch them float away. And sometimes we'd take rubber bands and make little rafts and throw them in. And I thought it was so fun. And I remember being a little kid thinking it was just so cool and so fun. And it was that like childlike wonder. And then my dad loved growing up on that block. He bought a house on Allen Street, which connects to James Court. You guys can all go look at these things up on maps. I don't live there anymore. I don't think I'm doxing myself. Anyway.
No.
So I wound up growing up on the same block right across from my grandparents. Our parents would tell us not to sneak into this brook, but of course we would. There were always rumors that because the brook went into these tunnels to go under different sets of blocks. And there was rumors, if you walk in far enough into the tunnels, there's like a satanic altar, like some of these early urban legends, which became such a big part of my life through Weird New Jersey magazine later. Like, point being, like when I think of childhood, I think of this brook. I think of this as being such a major part of my childhood. So I told Hallie, I'd like that if I die, that I be cremated and my ashes be put in that brook. And I realized, and something I think you probably are being trained on, she was like, well, we're married and we've never talked about this. Don't you want to be buried next to me or have our ashes wind up in the same place? Oh,
yeah.
And she was stressed out. She was a little hurt that I hadn't thought of that I just came up with my own plan, which I realized, what a weird conversation that no one talks about. Yeah, you got to plan this with your spouse. So then I said to two of my childhood friends, Mike D and Bonaduce, these are guys who grew up in North Jersey with me. You can tell by their names that these are North Jersey guys. I said,
shout out.
I said, I want at least some of my ashes to go in the brook. And I wasn't trying to be a jerk about it, but I said, I was just a little bit shocked. I was like, if I die young, I think Hallie's going to make sure some of my ashes go there and the others, we'll figure out where they go. I'll make sure it's someplace that they can be mixed with Hallie, someplace meaningful to all of us, but you can spread out the ashes to a few places. But I just need my North Jersey guys.
Absolutely.
To make sure, I need my North Jersey bros to make sure that some of my ashes wind up in that brook. And they say, got it. They said, got it. And then like 2 years later, I'm talking with them and one of them mentions to me, like, yeah, don't worry, we're gonna fling your body down into that brook if you die. We got you. And I was like, wait, what?
Ah!
And they're like, we're gonna make sure that you throw your body down into that brook. And I was like, that's not
No!
what I said. They were like, what? I was like, I said, make sure some of my ashes get sprinkled in the brook. Make sure my ashes, some of
Oh
my
my
ashes.
God.
I didn't say, they were like, oh, we thought that you meant like Hallie was insisting you get buried. This is literally what my North Jersey psychopath friends sit from West Orange, New Jersey. This tells you everything about people from West Orange, New Jersey, and the way that our brains are all completely fucked up. My psychopath friends I grew up with were going,
Incredible.
they said, we misheard you. We thought you said that Hallie was insisting you guys get like buried in coffins in a graveyard, and that our job was to sneak into the graveyard and dig your body up and like Weekend at Bernie's style, put it in the back seat of a car and strap it in with a seatbelt and put a little hat on it and drive to the bottom of the block you grew up on and throw your dead body into the brook. And I'm like, and what? Just like have a skeleton?
Leave
They
it?
were like, dude, they're like, we're just telling you, yeah, we're telling you we had your back. I'm like, you need to listen a lot fucking harder then, man. Don't grave rob me.
Incredible.
Throw me and fling me to a brook. This is why you need a death doula.
That's the title of the episode. Don't. What did you say? Don't.
I don't even
You
know.
had a great phrase to tell. It just flew out of my head. Andrea will know.
Don't grave rob me.
That is, yes. Don't grave rob me. That's the title of the episode.
These psychos I grew up with. And the reason I love these men, but also where I'm like, it's like why I have as many mental problems as I do. I grew up around people where they were like, yep, got it. And there was no part of them that would have hesitated. Legitimately. I'm not kidding. My childhood friends had no hesitation. Like, I'm sure they followed up with each other. I'm sure they like got a drink that night and were like, Jesus Christ, man. That's
what the hell is Chris talking about?
That's what he wants. We'll make sure we get his body tossed down this 10-foot ravine into a brook. Where children
love
play.
it.
Yeah, this is why you need a death doula. Everybody should get a death doula so your friends don't grave rob you and throw you in a brook. Everybody.
Yes, I agree. I also agree that couples should, and families should have these conversations where you, even if you're not exactly aligned on your end of life wishes, at least talk about them. The night that we closed on our house, my wife and I talked for several hours, and I was like, we own property together now, sweetie. We gotta get some things settled. Even if we're just talking about it, we're not putting anything in writing yet. I gotta know, what should be done with any money that we have left? What should be done with our bodies? Where should we be buried? Are we going to be buried? And she's always really struggled. It's ironic that she married me because she's always really struggled with these conversations. But she really stepped it up that night, and we had a really good conversation about what we wanted. And that was actually, I said to her, I was like, do you want to be buried next to me? Do you want to be buried in a cemetery? I don't want to be buried in a cemetery. Do you want that? And we had to kind of think about, what did we want? And so she wants to be cremated, and I want to be composted. Have you heard of human composting?
You're talking to the right. I have an environmentalist wife who has contemplated that her body be. And my understanding of this, it could be wrong. She's walked me through it, though. It sounds like no coffin, body goes in the ground, body is fertilizer to grow a tree. You plant a tree above a dead body, and the body feeds the tree. Is this correct?
So there's that. There's another name for that, but human composting refers to they take your body and they basically put it in like a shroud, and they surround you with like moss and leaves and all sorts of things, and you literally become compost. You become earth, and it's beyond just like being planted as a tree. You could become a whole forest. People will take that compost, and instead of like scattering ashes, you can give the dirt to people who knew you and loved you, and they can put the dirt in their gardens, or, pot a plant with it, or you can just have the dirt donated to like nature preserves and things like that. There are whole forests that are being preserved thanks to these efforts of human composting.
This is almost definitely what my wife will do.
Yeah, she and I are going to be
loves
for
composting. Now, can I ask, how long have you been married?
Too. We got married, it'll be 4 years this May.
I'm going to ask a question that's normally a bit of a tacky question to ask, but it has a real purpose.
Give it to me. Okay.
Do you have kids? Are you planning on having kids? I only ask because for someone whose professional focus has shifted so much towards death, it is also, I think, of value to think about how you think on birth, because those things tie together. Let's pause. I'll say that one I'm actually pretty proud of. That was pretty thoughtful. That's me back on my game. We're going to find out about that relationship between birth and death, both in general and in the caller's personal life, and so many other things when we get back. Thanks again to all of our advertisers. Now let's finish the phone call. It is also, I think, of value to think about how you think on birth, because those things tie together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No kids. We have cats. We are always going to have cats. We are the cat ladies, but no kids. We have 2 nieces and a nephew who are the absolute loves of our lives. It's funny. I feel like there's this thing where like, oh, if you don't want kids, that means you hate kids. I love kids. I love my nieces and nephews so much. I love my friends' kids. I'm knitting while we talk, I've been knitting a blanket for a friend of mine who just had a baby. Oh my God, I almost said my wife's name. I caught myself though. We talked about it over the years because we've been married almost 4 years, but we've been together. Actually, yesterday was our 11th anniversary. But yeah, no kids.
I love that for you. And it sounds like it's been well thought out. Do you think these things tie together? Do you think that being interested in helping people through the death process is in any way tied to the feeling that you don't want kids, or are they separate life tracks that you've fallen into?
No, totally separate. And I say that with confidence because I know I have a friend who's a death doula who has 3 kids. And I imagine she's a new friend, so I don't know her very well yet, but I imagine that, she has her kids and she has her death work. And I think for me, I don't want to have kids. There's so many reasons I don't want to have kids. To be totally honest, Chris, I recently, for the first time, saw a picture of a placenta, and it scared the shit out of me. I was like, when you give birth, you're not just giving birth to a baby. You're also giving birth to an organ. Yeah,
like a pile of
and
meat.
I'm like, nope.
To like a tenderloin steak.
Yep.
It's wild.
Literally. I had never actually seen a picture of it. It's a crazy thing. And I'm like, I love that my body could do that if I wanted it to do that. And I'm like, nope. I have enough organs. I don't need to make another one. It's so much. I was a long-winded answer to your question.
I love it.
I appreciate that you acknowledge that it's tacky.
No, it is. I mean, it is. Are you planning on having kids? Like, man, I'll say this too, especially with millennials. Don't ask, because they have all had to think, and it's not any sense of them being dramatic or whatever we used to label them as.
Nope.
Talk to anyone in their early 30s right now and ask them about kids. They are thinking so hard, and so much of it in a heartbreaking way, comes down to affordability
Mhm.
issues where you're going, there's all these articles.
Totally.
Why is the birth rate lower with Gen Z and millennials than it's ever been with prior generations? And it's like, motherfuckers,
Yeah.
because you're making us choose between a home and health insurance. I'm not bringing a kid into that. I'm not doing it. I
I
can't
think
afford
there's
both
also,
a house and health
there's
insurance. I'm not adding.
affordability.
Yeah. There's climate change.
I
There's
think there's also responsibility. That's exactly what I was going to say. There's responsibility and affordability. Like, do we want the responsibility of leaving this world to these children? What the hell kind of world are we leaving, like, to Cal and to all these kids?
I think about it all the
It's
time.
crazy to think about. I bet you do. I think about it all the time, and I don't have a kid.
Now, do you own your home? Are you in a city? Are you in a small town?
We are. I don't want to give myself away too much, but it's a city. It's a small city, I would say.
Small city. Do you and your wife identify as lesbians?
Yeah, yeah. I say that we are a lesbian couple, definitely. But I think she and I'm not. We've both kind of waffled and gone back and forth about our own personal identities.
Right.
But we are a lesbian couple. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I know I'm probing right now, but I just have to say,
Probe away.
well, I just really love knowing the context of, like, we're in 2025, and first of all, I'll say this: I'm about to make something that's like half joke, half not. We're also in a current time where I will say it felt like we were making major progress on the acceptance of queer love and marriages and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly feels like there's been some slippage on that. There's also been some divide and conquer politics on that. JD Vance saying, I think we might get the normal gay guy votes is something that everyone scoffed at. But I actually think that divide and conquer of a formerly, a coalition-based community dividing and conquering and saying, hey, if you're normal, come with us. That's actually an intentional political choice and an insidious one. Like, I want to be clear. I am smart enough to know all that before I say what has some facetiousness to it. But I will just say, I just love knowing that you have some neighbors that are lucky enough to live on a block with cool, childless lesbian death doulas. Like, that is, who doesn't?
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't? I mean, if you're a homeowner, who doesn't want to live down the block from some cool ass lesbian death doulas? That is exactly who you want. That's who I want my neighbors to be in 2025.
I'm a death doula, and my wife is a musician, so
Even
we really
better.
have the coolest house on the block for sure. Yeah,
Artsy, death-focused, childless lesbian couple. Move in next door to me.
Yeah, it's so sweet you say that too, because I think 2 days after we closed on the house, we were starting to get things in the house, and a woman and a young man came up to the house with a fucking plate of cookies, and I was like, "Are you our neighbors?" And they were so happy to meet us. We felt so warmly welcomed, and I'm fairly certain we're the only queer couple on the block. And so that was really, really meaningful to see that. It's not just like that I haven't seen any other queer couples, but at least 2 or 3 houses on our block have the like Blue Lives Matter flags and shit. No Trump signs, but I feel like Blue Lives Matter if you've got a Blue Lives Matter flag, then you might as well have a Trump flag at this point. So yeah, it was really nice to feel so warmly welcomed like that. I think you'd be a pretty cool neighbor too, Chris.
I try to be a good neighbor. I mean,
And your Halloween decorations. Are you kidding?
Everybody loves the Halloween decorations. I think most of my neighbors and a few of them listen to the show. A few of them actually got the magazine, and I didn't even know that they were subscribers to beautifulanonymous.com. And the first 2 copies delivered I just got to walk down the block to my neighbor Susan and then my neighbor Lauren. They ordered copies. So hello, Susan. Hello,
Lauren.
I'm happy you're listening. I think most of my neighbors would say that I'm a generally good neighbor, My wife and I are definitely a little weird lifestyle wise compared to the rest of the neighborhood, but I think people are generally happy to have
Yeah.
us. Although when I am a pain in the ass, I'm a pretty massive pain in the ass. That actually applies to most areas of my life,
Yeah,
though. I think I'm actually pretty chill.
totally.
People generally like having me around. I tend to stay in the background on things.
Yeah.
And if people are into what I'm about, then I think they get a big kick out of having me there. But when I am a pain in the ass, oof, I'm a big pain in the ass.
That resonates with me. I feel like people meet me and I have this sweet little baby face and I am easy to talk to, but if I need to, I will kick butt if need to.
I
I'm
love
ready
that.
to stand up. It's hard sometimes, but I'm like, yeah, I will call customer service if you need me to. I will make your doctor's appointment, whatever you need me to do. I'm ready. I've been in. I remember when the Black Lives Matter protests were starting back in like 2014, 2015, and I was one of those white people at the front of the protest. I was ready to kick butt.
I love that. I love that. I remember looking around New Jersey and seeing some of the towns where protests were happening for BLM and going, oh, this at the very
Mhm.
least, who knows? I mean, history will study how much actual change was affected in any sort of meaningful, permanent way.
Mhm.
But I do remember going, man, if there's Black Lives Matters protests in places like Millburn, New Jersey, at the minimum, this dialogue is penetrating a lot further and wider than it has in my lifetime. Because I grew up near that town.
Yeah.
Lovely town, but like an upper middle class, largely white town having a very
Mhm.
vocal protest. I'm like, okay, at the very least, this very necessary conversation is penetrating farther than it ever has. And that's, like I said, who knows how much permanent change. And I am also a white dude doing my best to help. And I'm sure there's listeners of color who have opinions of very varying degrees of the impact of BLM. But at the very least, in the moment, I was
Mhm.
like, whoa, people in Millburn are taken to the streets. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It is. It's we live in some wild times. That was little more than 10 years ago. It's wild how much has happened in all that time. I just got so exhausted thinking about it.
Yeah, it's been a long bunch of years. I have another death
I
doula. I have another death
when
doula question for you, if you had like one. What were you going to say though?
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say when you were asking about like buying the house, identifying as lesbians, I think part of the impetus for us buying the house also was like we are either going to move to Canada or we're going to buy a house so we can feel safe and secure.
Right.
Um, and I'm really glad we went with buying a house because I'll just say real quick, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but we got such a cool house. I love my house. I'm literally sitting here staring at my house. So
What
happy to
make
be here.
what makes it cool? What makes it unique?
So it's funny. The house is also a millennial. The house was built the same year I was born in 1990.
Ooh. Ooh.
So it feels, yeah. I love the like symmetry of being the same age as my house. And it was actually built. It was custom built for a gentleman who was a paraplegic. And so the
Wow.
hallways are really wide, and there are two doors that go into the bedroom that swing both ways. Um, and there's an elevator.
Wow.
Yeah,
It sounds like an
it's a
amazing
cool
house to
house.
it sounds like an amazing house to grow old in.
That's the plan. That's the other plan. I think there's this. I've heard the phrase thrown around like starter home, forever home, whatever. And the more I look around this house, the more we put work and time and energy into this house, the more I'm like, I want to. I literally had dreams. Like when we first bought the house, I was having dreams. This circles back around to death duel stuff. I was dreaming about dying in the house. I was dreaming about being in our bed, in our bedroom, in this house. And that would be my final moments on earth is to be in my house.
That's a good sign that you've made the right purchase. If you're having dreams about dying there at
Yeah.
peace someday, that's a very good sign that you're comfortable with
Yeah.
that purchase.
Even before we put furniture in it, I was having those dreams. I was in our rental, and I woke up one morning like on the verge of tears because I was, I felt so peaceful. And then the first night we actually slept here, again, I woke up in tears because I opened my eyes and it was the same view that I had in my dream.
It's an amazing thing. Now I have one
Okay,
last.
what was your other death doula question?
Yeah, my last death duel question. And I wonder if the training accounts for this. But I have to imagine there might be some aspect of this where you go, what if a person is very lonely and has no one else and wants someone there with them as they pass away? And when they're on hospice, you're there. What if there's
Yeah.
what if there's a comfort level that says, I don't want my family to have to witness this. I don't think they can handle it. Will you be there? Point being, in this job, you are going to be physically with people as they pass away, I would have to imagine.
Absolutely.
I also imagine that people want to tell their truth or their secrets before they pass away. And
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any training that goes
Yeah.
like, how do you handle it if somebody like looks at you and goes like, I need you to know I killed somebody in the 80s, or like my nephew is actually my son and no one knows it. Like what happens when people tell you their heavy secrets on the way out? Are you trained on that?
Oh, Chris, you're doing it. You just listen. You just listen. You're just there for people. I don't think there's anything else much to it. You're there to listen. You're there to, take in those last stories and those last feelings. It's, as you mentioned HIPAA before, it's the same thing. Like, I think there are HIPAA laws involved with death doulas too. So yeah, it's just about listening and being there for people. If a person, doesn't have any loved ones or doesn't want their loved ones around, if they want a death doula, if that's something that they want to have, then the death doula is just there to be there.
I know you probably can't reveal it, but have the people who have been training you given you any examples of stuff like this? Like, for example, if somebody says like, hey, I need you to know that I actually like killed 2 people. I killed 2 hitchhikers in the late 70s. Here's where it was.
Yeah.
And I got away with it. And I've always been racked with guilt. But now that I'm dying, let their families know so their families can stop living with the torment of the unknown. Like, I know that that's an extreme example, but like, I bet it happens.
Totally.
Do you
Absolutely.
have you heard crazy
I'm
examples, whether you can share them or not?
I'm struggling to think of a specific example, but there's another. It's funny. I keep recommending books. The program I'm doing, it's called Going with Grace, and the founder of the organization just published a memoir, and I can't remember the name of the memoir. Alua Arthur is her name, but I feel like she wrote several stories, or she shared several stories like that in her time of people. Those sort of last confessional moments, or, those moments that you can only share by changing the names and stuff like that. But my understanding is that's just about listening to people, and just being there as a soundboard, or, there are the people who want to die surrounded by candles and, rose petals and stuff like that, and just making sure that they have what they need to, be in those last moments as peacefully as possible.
Have you thought about
your question?
It was a brilliant answer. Have you thought about how you want to die?
Yeah, I told you I want to die in my bed.
Yeah, right. As per your dreams.
I want to die at home.
Do you think about the soundtrack? Do you think about the lighting? Do you think about who you want there?
I want my cats there, whoever my cats are at the time. I want my cats with me. If my wife is still alive, I hope she's there with me. The soundtrack. I'm a big, this probably won't surprise anyone listening. I'm a big theater kid. I'm a musical theater nerd. I feel like just play me some of my favorite like Broadway cast recordings as I go. That sounds really nice. And I want to be comfortable. I want to smell nice things around me. I want to smell like lavender and freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. And, just if it were up to me, I just want to be as comfy, cozy as possible.
I thought of a very funny one for me, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
I had this roommate my sophomore year of college who I would say bullied me, which was strange to be bullied in college, but it happened.
Lovingly bullied or bullied?
We had a very, very bad contentious relationship by the end of our year living together. And it was, I looked back, that relationship is part of why I struggled so much in college. Although looking back, so many things I could have handled differently. My mental illness that needed treatment that I wasn't getting, I probably placed a lot of it on this relationship in a way that wasn't totally accurate. But I do think he also had a lot of fun tormenting me. I haven't spoken to him in 23 years. I think it would be very, very funny.
Do you want to?
Well, listen to this. How funny would it be if I made sure I had a death doula where I said, go find this guy, Dave, who was my college roommate, and we hated each other, who I haven't spoken to at this point in like legitimately 23 years. And I want him to be with me when I die. And then when I stay alive long enough for him to get there. And then when he gets there, I just make sure that they're blasting the Benny Hill theme song at full blast. And I never speak to him. I just make direct eye contact with him and die as the isn't that the Benny Hill theme song? And just like make direct eye contact with this guy I haven't spoken to in over 20 years. It's like and then the death doula is like, thank you for your service, Dave. You can go now. And he has to just wonder for the rest of his time on Earth, what the fuck was that all about?
I say this with the utmost respect. You're a maniac.
Yeah, I know. I've been kind of re-embracing that lately. I've been trying to maybe not sit on these things that sometimes pop into my head, but I don't know if you'd be interested in being a death doula that makes sure that happens. He didn't request Hallie. He didn't request Cal. He wants you, the guy in college he had the worst relationship with, just stare deeply into his eyes. Well, Andrea's not typing anything, which tells me this is too weird. If Andrea's not typing LOL, I know this is actually crossed beyond a point where it's too weird. So I'm going to shut up.
Well, I would be honored to be your death doula if the need were ever to arise. And I feel like we could make something like that happen. If not exactly that, maybe we'd make like a video for Dave and make sure he sees it or something.
I want him there. I want him in the room. Only one in the room. And he shows up and he's like, what the fuck did you ask me to be here for? And I just look at him and I just shake my head no, and I don't answer him, but we lock eyes. Well, it would be the best song. Would it be the Benny Hill theme song? Or would it be maybe like the theme song from the old G.I. Joe cartoon, but like at a level at a level of volume, or the old Transformers? Andrea suggested wipe out. Wipe out. And my eyes are just totally wide and like this. And then I die, and then you have to be the one that's like, so thanks so much for answering the call, and you can be on your way now.
Yep, you can go now.
And he specifically instructed me to
you are not invited to the funeral.
He specifically instructed that I do not explain any of that.
I also forgot that you don't want a funeral, so you may leave now. Thank you, sir.
That's my moral. And then give my body to Mike D and Bonaduce. They know what to do. Anyway, caller, our time is up.
Throw it down the hill.
Oh, throw it down in the brook. I love that I get to say this. We talked so much about death, but it was a rather joyful conversation with a lot of laughs and a lot of information.
That's what I want. I want death to be joyful.
On that happy note,
has it really been an hour?
It has. And now, you're a Touchtone subscriber, so you know we have more time coming up beyond the paywall where I get to ask you a bunch of great questions. Are you down to hang out a few more minutes?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Goodbye to everyone on the free feed.
Bye, free feed.
Caller, thank you so much for the thoughtful conversation, as well as for dedicating your life to the service of others, especially at a time of life when they need it. I also want to say, too, in reflecting on this episode, I want to just give myself like a solid C+, B- as a host. I had been dealing with death a lot that week in terms of my uncle having passed right when you called, and I think normally I would have made that one a little bit less about me. Thank you for letting me take a little focus, and I apologize. I think it went a little beyond the usual, but death was on my mind. Andrea Quinn is our producer. Thank you to the High Priestess Andrea Quinn. Shellshag does our theme music. Thank you to Shellshag. My friends, go to punchup.live/Chris Geth if you want to come see a show, especially my upcoming shows in Honolulu, Hawaii, and Los Angeles, California. We've got a voicemail. It's at 973-306-4676. We're on Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. We're also on TikTok. We also have the Facebook group where people discuss episodes. Join all those things. Thanks so much, everybody. Tell friends we are out here. Tell people we exist. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions.
If you could go back in time and see any performance, where would you go? What would it be? What would you see?
Got it. Already know my answer. Love it.
Me too.
What's yours?
You go first.
Andy Kaufman's show at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, good answer.
Thank you so much.
Mine would be, there's a musical called Mame, and it starred Angela Lansbury and B. Arthur, and I feel like seeing opening night of that show would be really cool.
Andrea says Gavin Rossdale's Glycerine Spring Break MTV performance, which is not bad, but compared to mine and yours, I bet Andrea's so mad that I said hers out loud.
No, respect, Andrea. We don't judge. That's awesome.
Never. If there's the only person I ever give the business to, it's a great answer. It's legitimately a great answer. I know it is. Iconic performance. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.